Canva. I mean, you've definitely heard of it, right? It's this absolute design powerhouse. Something like 200 million people use it every single month. But have you ever stopped to think about how it got here? How did this simple idea from a university student all the way in Australia just completely flip the design world on its head and grow into a multi-billion-dollar empire? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
You know, it all boiled down to this one really simple but totally revolutionary question. Think about it. Back then, design software was kind of this exclusive club, like a walled garden just for the experts. But this one simple thought, it was the key that was about to unlock the whole thing for, well, for everyone.
So before Canva came along, your options were not great. You either had to spend years, and I mean years, trying to master these super complex tools like Photoshop, or you had to shell out a bunch of money to hire someone who already had. It was just a world of crazy high costs and these incredibly steep learning curves. But Canva, they just came in and completely flipped the script, creating a whole new reality where anyone, literally anyone, could get into design.
Okay, so a revolution like this, it doesn't just happen by magic, right? It didn't just appear out of thin air. It started with a really specific and honestly, a super frustrating problem that one person just became obsessed with solving. And that student, her name was Melanie Perkins. She was teaching design programs, and she saw it firsthand, day in and out. Her students were struggling, not because they were bad at design, but because the software itself was the biggest barrier. It was just unnecessarily infuriating to use. And that simple observation, that little moment of empathy, that became the foundation for everything that followed. But, you know, having a big vision to change the world is one thing. Actually proving it can work, that's a whole other ballgame. So before Canva could even think about taking on the entire design industry, it had to start smaller. It had to conquer a much more specific territory first: school yearbooks. This is actually a classic business move. It's called the beachhead strategy. And the idea is pretty simple. Instead of trying to fight the entire war on all fronts at once, you focus all your energy on securing one small strategic point of entry. And for Canva, that first point of entry was a little company called Fusion Books. And this was just a perfect execution of that strategy. So first, they targeted a super specific niche. Students. These are people with a real need to design something, a yearbook. But they have basically zero expertise and, let's be honest, very tight budgets. Perfect. Second, they used this niche to validate their model. They proved that this whole drag-and-drop idea could actually work and scale. And finally, Fusion Books became a profitable business all on its own. This let them learn all the fundamentals and prove the entire concept was solid, way before the name Canva even existed. So, they've got a proven model, right? You'd think the next step would be easy. Just get some funding and go global. But nope. Turning that successful little yearbook company into a global platform, that meant they had to go through an absolute gauntlet of rejection.
I want you to just let that number sink in. Over 100 times. Imagine that. Over 100 times, Melanie Perkins walked into a room, pitched her heart out, and was told no. You see, investors just couldn't wrap their heads around it. How could this simple little tool from Australia possibly compete with the absolute giants of Silicon Valley? But here's the thing. For Perkins, giving up just wasn't an option. It was never even on the table. And that unwavering belief was absolutely critical. She's talked about how every no didn't feel like a failure. It just meant she had to go back, refine her pitch, and try even harder the next time.
And the reason for that resilience, it's because the goal was always so much bigger than just building a piece of software. It was a mission. They wanted to empower the world to design. And that huge, powerful, unifying vision, it really acted like their North Star. It guided them through all of those constant setbacks and kept that dream alive, especially on the days when it would have been so easy to just quit. So, after all that struggle, they finally got the funding. They launched in 2013, and that's when Canva unleashed its real secret weapon, the product itself. It was so intuitive, so genuinely useful that it basically became its own marketing engine. And this, my friends, is the magic of what we call product-led growth. And wow, did it work? I mean, the results just speak for themselves. This wasn't just steady growth, it was absolutely exponential. They went from around 10 million users in 2017 and just skyrocketed to over 240 million just 8 years later. Let me be clear, this kind of explosive growth never happens by accident. It's powered by a really brilliant strategy working behind the scenes. Yeah, that strategy is called product-led growth, or PLG for short. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like an iceberg. What you and I see on the surface is that simple, super user-friendly product. That's just the tip. But the real power, the thing that's actually driving all that insane growth, is the massive, deliberate strategy hidden just below the water. So let's look at these layers. They all build on each other to create this incredibly powerful growth loop. First up, acquisition. The freemium model gets millions of people in the door for free. Next is activation. The onboarding is so easy that you have this aha moment within minutes when you create something that actually looks good. Then comes retention. The platform becomes so useful for everything that it's sticky. You just keep coming back. And finally, referral. People are so proud of what they've made that they share it with the world, and just like that, they become your best evangelists. It's a genius cycle.
And if you want proof, just look at the numbers. Canva converts a whopping 11% of its free users into paying customers. To put that in perspective, the average for most software companies is somewhere between 2 and 5%, so they're more than doubling it. This shows you that the PLG model isn't just about getting a ton of users. It's an incredibly effective machine for generating real revenue.
Okay, but a product that's successful creates a whole new kind of challenge, right? It's called hypergrowth. And to manage that kind of explosive expansion, Canva realized they had to be just as creative and innovative with their people and their culture as they were with their software.
So how'd they do it? Well, they built their culture on a few really interesting pillars. First, they tore up the rulebook and dropped university degree requirements, which opened the doors to a much more diverse pool of talent. Then, they created 2 separate career paths, one for managers, or coaches, and another for specialists, the builders. This is huge, because it means you don't have to become a manager just to advance your career. And finally, they baked this culture of constant, kind, but clear feedback right into the company's DNA.
And you can see that these strategies are having a real, measurable impact. Take this, for example. Look at the growth in the number of women in senior leadership roles. That's a pretty significant jump in just a single year. It really shows a clear, intentional commitment to building a team that's inclusive and representative at every single level.
So, where's all of this going? You've got this incredible product, this super intentional culture, this jaw-dropping valuation. What's it all for? Well, it turns out it's all part of a very simple but really profound master plan.
They call it their 2-step plan, and it's just beautifully simple. Step 1, become one of the most valuable companies in the world. Okay, pretty ambitious, but that's not the end goal. That ambition is really just the vehicle for step 2. Do the most good we possibly can. The success is the engine for the impact.
And, well, as of 2025, you could say they've pretty much nailed step 1. A $42 billion valuation. That puts them in a very elite club of the most valuable private companies on the entire planet. And that staggering financial success is exactly what makes the potential scale of Step 2 so incredibly exciting to think about. And really, that brings us right back to the beginning. The absolute core of Canva's success was just looking at a really complex, intimidating process and asking a simple question, how can we make this easy? It's such a powerful idea. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other huge, complex problem out there is just waiting for someone like you to come along and make it simple?